Layoff announcements skyrocketed toward the end of 2025 as generative AI and economic tightening pressure corporations.
And layoff announcements has
restructure their
continued into
workforces. Many
2026
companies
with
are cutting costs
Intel
by trimming middle
leading the pack at
management and, in
24,000 and
certain industries,
Microsoft at
eliminating
15,000,
entry-level roles that can
PayPal
be replaced by AI. But layoffs
4,760.
aren't the only
So it's
thing
continuing
experts are concerned about.
towards going
Generative
towards the end of the
AI
year.
is speeding up how
And I
people work,
foresee it
but
continuing
that
in
efficiency can come at the
2027 as well.
trade-off of maintaining skills and rising up the corporate ladder.
It might save a buck now. The challenge becomes, in a few years down the road, where is the pipeline of talent to move into those really important middle ranks of your company? I think there's going to be a market failure whereby companies are reticent to really continue to invest in training young people instead of just simply
Skill sets needed to be successful has changed, and employees and employers have to adapt to this new environment.
The way you make a senior employee is not through school, it's by doing the job alongside someone who knows more, and you learn by doing, and that's where the bulk of our skill comes from.
Here's how AI may be killing people's chances at a promotion. Globally, nearly 40% of workers' core skills will be disrupted by 2030 due to AI and digitalization. It may be difficult for newer
I think it's going to be
employees
earlier
build
than
the
that,
skills
in my
they
opinion.
need due to organizational flattening.
The process for building skill has been the same for about 160,000 years. And it consists of trying to do something that is close to the edge of your capability, but not at it, alongside someone who actually has already done it repetitively and knows how to do it, i.e. an expert. So a novice and an expert working together on a real problem. You work your way through a number of problems, and eventually you find yourself with somebody looking over your shoulder, trying to learn from you.
That
New
landscape has
technology, such as
changed
generative
because
AI,
the
allows an
person
expert
that they
to
can
work
get
faster,
cheaper
which means companies may
will be
not
used
preserve
as
the
well as
novice
AI.
expert bond in order to save time and money. In occupations where AI can perform most tasks, the share of workers in that role fell by about 14% over 5 years.
Why would I involve someone in the work that would slow it down and make more mistakes if I don't have to? The answer is I wouldn't. I don't. I found this in robotic surgery in 2012 through 2014 and published studies about that. Junior surgeons are now strictly optional in robotic surgery. Instead of participating for 4.5 hours in a 4-hour procedure, they participate for 10 to 15 minutes. That is still true. And that is true at scale now with LLM. So it's not about management, it's about expert novice and breaking that relationship.
The challenge is if everyone takes that mindset of, I can't guarantee these folks are going to stick around and be my mid-level talent, I'm just going to save a buck today. If everyone does that, the entire pipeline of talent starts to collapse. And in a few years,
That's absolutely right. And if employers don't have talent in the long term,
Generative AI is
they're
currently
definitely
able
not
to do
going
the
to be
work
successful.
of some entry-level employees. But right now, at least, it isn't capable of taking on more advanced tasks that may require interpersonal skills or sensitive judgment.
So think the law partner advising clients as opposed to sort of sitting behind a desk and drafting contracts. So the challenge is going to be what happens if employers thin out the ranks of those early career jobs that bridge education to that kind of expertise. How in the world are young people going to get trained up to come in at a level 3 if they haven't done level 1 and level 2? This is a really existential challenge for employers because they might be excited to save on labor costs today. So why am I going to invest in training up? If the billable hours aren't there with the young lawyers, why am I going to take on extra first-year associates that I don't need in the same leanest model? Why would my competitor not just poach those young people?
We need to expect that the economy is not investing to keep this expert-novice relationship alive in the work. In fact, we are aggressively breaking that relationship through default use of AI. And that means in 3 to 5
Also, you have to
years, whatever
consider
firms, organizations,
those young people are stimulating the
counting on
economy
that
as
ladder
well.
continuing to work, are
So
gonna
if
face
you
a
replace
new
them with
nasty set of
AI,
problems. Cleanup is
how's the
always better
economy
than
going to
fix.
be stimulated, and how are
This
companies
notion
going
of how
to increase
people are
their
going to
sales
advance
over
in their
time?
careers, what is the training going to look like? What has to happen first in higher ed to get them ready for these roles? But importantly, what should employers be doing differently to train up workers if those early career low stakes but still well-paid roles are thinning out? How do we make sure employers aren't just optimizing only for the short run? I personally think we probably need some public
I feel
policy
they need to
tools and
retrain their
some
current
outside
employees
intermediaries
because
to
just
really
like
tackle this
IKEA
training
did,
challenge.
they
This is
retrained
also
the
a problem
employees
for
to become more of a
companies.
designer with
63%
the
of
dealing with the
employers surveyed
architects and
expect
the
skills
designers.
gaps in the
So I
labor
think it's
market to hinder
beneficial in that way.
organizational transformation. 42% of employers expect talent availability to decline between 2025 and 2030. Bean says companies must re-engineer workflows that include advanced technology, but also allow novices to participate.
The whole world has this huge inventive opportunity to say, okay, this thing currently, if you use it in default ways, is going to separate and weaken this bond between experts and novices in the work. Is there a way that it could make those things healthier? I think the answer is absolutely yes.
Bean recommends the skill workers learn is how to learn and to be adaptable.
I call it meta learning or meta skill. You need to learn the skills for getting good at something, because the next thing you're going to have to get good at, we haven't invented yet, but it's coming faster than it ever has before.
That's
Practice it
absolutely
repeatedly
right. I
until,
feel that
A,
people
you
need
can
to
help yourself,
adapt quicker,
B, much more
but I
effectively.
also feel
You can help other
AI
people
as
protect their skills,
they're moving so
and then maybe even
fast
design
that it's
tech
unprecedented
that can
that
help everybody not
employees
dumb
and
themselves
employees
down
can't
with
catch up,
current
at least
AI
at the
we've
moment.
got. Firms that add new automation, new classes of automation in their markets win and grow because they're more efficient. They outcompete their competitors. The competitors are the ones that shed jobs, typically. So if you're seeing big layoffs from a firm that's really well run right now, it's not because they're needing to shrink because they're not efficient enough. They're probably just thinking about, well, how do we need to rebuild ourselves for the future? In general, the logic is if you want to grow healthily over the mid and longer term, you want to
I
retain
think in the
talent,
early stage,
redirect,
everybody just blaming
and
AI,
education needs to grow
and
to the extent that you
that
can.
doesn't necessarily
Here is the question of
mean
the
it's the
morning.
cause.
Are AI layoffs real, or are they a scapegoat for what's going on in the employment picture in this country? Christina Partsinevelos joins us now with that story. Good morning.
Good morning, Andrew. Well, Amazon, Chegg, Microsoft, Meta, Salesforce, the list continues. Tech companies just are cutting tens of thousands of jobs, and some of them are blaming AI. But at NVIDIA's GTC in DC yesterday, top CEOs were telling us something completely different about what's driving these cuts. For example, Perplexity CEO says the AI narrative is missing the point. Listen in.
Overhiring they did in the COVID era when they didn't actually need to. The results of that are being seen now. So correlation doesn't imply causation. Like, it's not because of AI that people are losing jobs.
And CoreWeave CEO Michael Intractor
I think
frames
it's
it as
not
part of
only
a bigger pattern
overhiring
that just
during
happens in tech
COVID
history.
situation. I think it was all the free money that we finding out. Combination of
technical
fraud and just the amount of free money that was out there as well.
There is a rotation that occurs, and I think one of the roles for government is going to be to assist the rotation that's required to retrain, to repurpose, to allow people to build careers.
And CrowdStrike CEO George Kurtz told me AI elevates workers into controllers, while AI will handle all of the grunt work. So essentially,
I would not
working
bet on the
alongside AI,
government
that's what humans will
retraining.
do. The
I'll
reality,
put
though, is
it
just more
more
complicated.
emphasis
Amazon,
on
we know,
the
cut
tech companies
14,000
like
jobs citing AI.
Microsoft,
Microsoft eliminated over
Anthropic,
15,000 this
some of
year,
the
while
bigger
investing about $80
Intel,
billion in AI. Meta
NVIDIA,
slashed 600 from its AI
because the
unit.
government is not the
Salesforce
best
cut
at
4,000.
training
You
or
get the
getting
point.
people
All
up
while
in technology.
posting almost record profits.
Because
The
most of their
CEOs
technology
at
is outdated
GTC
as well.
aren't just buying the AI replacement story their own industry is pushing. They say companies are using AI as cover to finally correct years of bloated headcount and hiring mistakes. Guys?
Okay, so, well, here's the thing I think about. NVIDIA at $5 trillion, that's a question about where we're all going. But the other piece of it on the employment side is for all of these companies and NVIDIA and the like to get to these valuations, they have to create remarkable amounts of productivity. So
Right.
if they're as successful as we all want them to be, it also means that maybe there's going to be folks who don't have jobs to ultimately pay for all of this.
Yeah, to your point, they're going to have to
round-trip idea.
Yeah, well, cut jobs, you mean in order to lower costs so that they remain more productive and keep the margins? Is that what you're implying?
Yeah.
So of course, but then for NVIDIA's case, they have the money, right? They're spending like crazy. They're investing in Intel. They're announcing $1 billion in Nokia. So I guess if you're an employee at NVIDIA,
They have the money, but
no
they
job cuts,
don't necessarily want to
example,
use it for
you'd be
employees,
wondering
and
why
that's where the
I'd be
problem
getting
lies.
laid off. The same for a lot of these other tech companies. When Microsoft is spending, X amount of dollars on dealing with OAI, or other firms like Nebius, for example, to build out data centers, why are they cutting jobs?
On Wall Street, markets at record highs as excitement over artificial intelligence drives big-time money into stocks.
One thing about Wall Street, the more you cut headcount, the more the stock goes up.
Amazon announcing its largest job cuts in years, eliminating 14,000 corporate positions. In a note to its employees, the company calling AI the most transformative technology we've seen since the internet, adding, "We're convinced that we need to be organized more leanly." UPS also slashing nearly 48,000 workers, citing various circumstances for its moves, including opportunities to invest in certain technologies. Jensen Huang, CEO of chipmaker NVIDIA, the company at the center of the AI revolution, believes the tech will make people more productive.
My belief is that everyone's jobs will change because of AI. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI.
The CEO of Salesforce recently said AI helped cut his customer support staff nearly in half, while Microsoft has had thousands of layoffs as the company invested heavily in OpenAI, the developer of ChatGPT. The company's co-founder Bill Gates speaking with CNBC about AI's influence.
Although it hasn't been seen in large numbers, over the next several years, there will be some impact on the job market.
A recent report by Indeed found fields like
Well, I
software
think he hasn't been
development
looking
and
at
data analytics are the most
latest
at risk of losing
layoffs
jobs to
overall
AI,
this year.
while more
'Cause I
hands-on
don't think it's
careers
gonna
like
be
nursing
long-term.
and
I think it's
childcare will
immediate.
likely be more protected.
A lot of, especially large tech companies, is that they're all experimenting with what AI can do for them. But keep in mind, we're also in like the very early stages of AI adoption.
And we should note that Amazon says it made that decision to lay off a huge amount of people in order to, quote, reduce bureaucracy. But again, as one of the largest employers in America, a lot of attention paid on that announcement.
So, Brian, really quickly, while we have you here, you mentioned the types of jobs that are going to be most affected, software development, data analytics. Is there a certain type of person who might be most affected?
Yeah, well, that report looked a lot at skills, but it's also a lot of workers and aspiring workers in tech. And you imagine a lot of those are younger people. In fact, a recent survey from the New York Fed showed the unemployment rate among younger people, that's ages 22 to 27, rising from roughly 4% to over 7% just over the last 2 years. Now, that may not all be related to AI, but you imagine a lot of software engineering, computer science degree programs are adapting really quick to try to refit their graduates for careers in AI.
AI is causing a lot of disruption in the job market right now. And so part of what AI is doing is it's driving a lot of worker productivity. Businesses don't need to hire as quickly, or they're laying people off. And that is going to be just a significant disruption in the marketplace. It is Jobs Report Day. This is Andrew Krapschetz from redballoon.work. We are the nation's leading pro-freedom job board and labor connector. Overall, it's still a very disappointing number. We'd love to see jobs report growing all the time. But there's a lot of different factors that are driving this. It's not just the headline that we're seeing. It's harder and harder for people to get
AI is the culprit, but it's not only AI.
Basically, what's
it's
happening
the
is
times, and also has to do with
which we believe
the amount of
is,
free money that
made
was in the
image of
economy
God,
previously.
Complex human being and whittling down to a piece of paper that we call a resume, and then AI is making decisions based on that. So I think the market is going to work these out eventually, because businesses do need to hire. They're going to need to find these people, and they're going to find a way through that. In fact, we've already talked to businesses who've said, look, we're starting to not use our ATS. We're starting to not use AI because it simply is not bringing us the talent that we need, and we're desperate for
And
right
people
now.
got to consider anything new and shiny. People are going to
desperate for
gravitate towards
So,
it. But
this
once you
will
find
work
out some of the
but right now it's
limitations and
definitely
some of the
causing a lot
problems,
of noise,
it
and
will
it's hard
kind
to
of
find
revert
signal in
itself
the
and
labor
correct
market.
itself
I
as
think it
well.
is causing the largest job disruption in history. But what it also means is we are going to be able to produce products and beat the market. And when we do that, we're going to be able to grow, and we're going to be hiring jobs in sales and customer service, and eventually in engineering as well. So I think it's more of a disruption rather than a long-term layoff because of the productivity gains that are going to be achieved, but definitely some pain in the short term. I hate to jump back on the AI bandwagon, but the reality is that the most common thing asked for across all jobs, all sectors, at Red Balloon right now is AI-enabled employees. So employers are looking for people who aren't afraid to figure out how to use AI to be more effective and efficient in their job. And obviously that feels weird. You're like, really? AI for warehouse workers, AI for truck drivers, AI for manufacturing
It makes
jobs?
sense.
Well, the
You have to
reality
be
is
willing to
technology
adapt.
is allowing
And the
for
more you're able to
productivity gains in
adapt
those
and learn
areas.
new skill,
And I think that's part of the
you're going to
reason
be
we're
more
seeing worker
beneficial
productivity
to
at
yourself
one of its
as well as
all-time
the
highs.
employer.
I think of humans not as consumers, but as producers. We have two hands and one mouth. And so the more humans that are out there looking for opportunities to create value in the economy, the better. And hopefully those people, it's going to be a short-term pain as you lose all those government jobs, they lose that income. But as they go into the private sector, it's going to create economic activity that will long-term, I think, be very beneficial for America.
But let's begin with those tech layoffs. Today, Meta announced 8,000 layoffs. That's about 10% of its global workforce. At the same time, the Menlo Park social media company also announced it will move another 7,000 employees to AI-related roles. Let's bring in our business and tech reporter, Scott Bunman. You've been following this all day.
So AI will create new opportunities
May
in areas
20th.
as well.
Employees knew it was coming, but they didn't know who was going to be laid off. This morning, they got the email. 8,000 of them.
Yeah, even at a successful company like Meta, known to treat its employees well, pay well, lots of stock options, it's still rough, Janelle. People were hopping on social media today talking about how in early hours of the morning, they found out that they had lost their jobs and then dealing with what the severance package was. It's a really tough way to go. And like you said, they had weeks in advance because layoffs are a multi-step process at these companies. Just today, as they reported their earnings into it, a large Bay Area software company saying they would cut 17% of the workforce. Now those employees are going through what Meta employees went through recently, waiting to find out if their jobs are going to be lost. This is really a tough time. And each company involved in these layoffs,
I think one of the biggest negative aspects of it is a lot of people are scared for their job right now because they don't know if they're going to be next and if AI is going to replace them.
And moved 7,000 to AI-related jobs. So this is the focus right now. You did speak to the CEO of Joint Ventures Silicon Valley. And did they talk about AI starting to slash some of these tech jobs?
Very much. He said we're kind of in a new era of jobs and job losses here, where AI is so hot right now that if you have the skills to manage AI and program AI and supervise AI, you really have a golden ticket right now. Jobs want you, companies want you, large and small. There are startups that are hiring. There are large companies hiring for AI jobs.
And the skill set is not hard to learn, and they have a lot of free programs out there, so it's up to the person to really hone in on their skills.
Money is being spent. Capital expenditures right now for data centers and AI are in the billions of dollars for these tech companies. And so they're bringing people over there that have the skills. So right now we're at this kind of inflection point of this new technology that's dominating all the oxygen in the tech world. And if you have the skills, that's good. If not, your job is on the line.
Yeah, mass layoffs today at Meta, Cisco, LinkedIn. They all recently
Either
announced
you
layoffs
adapt
as
or
well.
you wait
People looking
until you
for
get
work. We
replaced.
spoke to an HR expert. What advice do they have for these people?
Yeah, you know, she says really right now, do the networking to find out not just what AI in general is looking for, but what specific companies are looking for when it comes to their AI jobs that, again, they are adding. So here's Google talking about its new developer conference. It was all about AI, and they got very specific about who they need to hire and where they're going to grow to put together
employers need to
AI,
put an
whether
emphasis on
side,
retraining
does
as
a lot of
opposed
that,
to
or the
laying
hardware
off
side. They're now doing
as
the
well.
kind of glasses that help you, sort of like what Meta does. And so you can look at these individual companies, she says, and find out what they're looking for. But right now is a good time to network and find out where the jobs are in this rapidly growing field that companies are spending billions of dollars on.
Tailor your resumes for
Exactly.
those jobs and put AI in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
Get attention.
It's like .com from about 20 years ago. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Scott.